Tuesday, November 29th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, for some reason, we talk about musical instruments.
Let's do this.
So this is probably germane more to, Geek Nights Tuesday rather than Geek Nights Thursday. But I'd like to point out that Scott and I together played Go against each other for the first time about 15 minutes ago.
Well, we sort of played it sort of off the cuff. Like, it's a pretty simple game. You take turns putting, your colored guy on the board, and when you surround the other guy, you get his stuff. Sort of like Othello or Tron in a way.
In a really abstract way. But the deal is, we've been, for you Thursday people who don't listen to Tuesday, we're kind of into really hardcore, German style, brains banging against other brains kind of games. Not like chess, but more like Puerto Rico or Die Macher or Die Siedler von Catan. Anyway, we're done with a lot of these games, at least the 2 and 3 player versions of these games, because Scott and I lived together for a long time, and I think we have finished to the point of not being able to enjoy any further or gain any sort of intellectual stimulation from any 2-player game we've ever played.
So, of course, people will say, and some mostly rightly so, that Go is like the be-all, end-all of games. Like,
it's perfect information, it's wholly abstract,
and there's so many different possible moves and patterns that a computer can't possibly figure it out because it's so complex.
Now, I'd always been leery, partly because at RIT, I didn't have to worry about Go, because there were still German games I hadn't played that might have been good. Now I've played them all.
Yep.
Granted, if we had more people living here, we'd probably be okay, because I don't think we've solved 4-player T&E or 4 or 5-player Kalis or any of those games.
Yeah, it's just like 2 and 3 player games. We're running out.
I'll tell you all a little thing about games in general, just because, you're not Tuesday listeners, maybe. 2-player games are very difficult to make with any sort of staying power, because they basically break down into randomness or a predetermined victory condition.
Yeah, or rock, paper, scissors.
And
it's like, think about it. Every 2-player game you've ever played, right, that you could ever think of, unless it's some kind of sport, right, like boxing, say, it comes down to either rock, paper, scissors, memorization, luck, something along those lines. It's never like strategy or anything like that.
It might be strategy until you solve the game. I mean, checkers, you can play checkers tactically and strategically, unless you know the game perfectly, and then you can just play perfectly and no matter what, always make the good decision.
Well, I guess maybe those miniatures war games, like maybe Warhammer, but then it's got some randomness in there with the dice action going on.
See, that evens out, and while those games would probably solve our problem, do you think we have the time to play a game like that? I want to.
We can't even play like freaking Battlelore.
I love games where I have a million fiddly miniatures and I pull out a laser pen and some measuring tape and give my skirmishers an order to go into the woods and wait while Scott's columns of Celial troops are marching in from the north. But I don't have time for that. Maybe if I had a basement and I could leave it set up down
And no
there.
job.
Now, you know what? Whenever we build, Geek House version 2...
The thing is, most of the fun I get from those games is setting up and moving the dudes around. I would be better served just with a basement, buying a shit ton of Legos, and not playing a game.
Well, see, the other problem is, while those games are really fun, you're probably better off just playing a computer simulation of war at that point.
Yep. So I don't want to talk too much about Go now because we're complete doofuses with it. But in the future, there will be lots of Go talking going on. Perhaps Go talking that Go fanatics will be pissed off at. Maybe we should watch Hikaru no Go. I mean, I've seen like 4 episodes.
I kind of like Hikaru no Go. It's not like Akagi because...
No, I'm saying maybe we should watch it to learn something.
Yeah, maybe we should. There's something to be said there for making shows that are educational and are entertaining. I mean, if Sesame Street as a kid?
Yeah, if you really think about it, there aren't too many things that usually when someone tries to be educational, they fail on entertainment, or when they try for entertainment, they don't do any education. And it's very rare that something succeeds at doing both, despite many people trying to do both. And I think Hikaru no Go is one of the best successes, perhaps the top 10 of those. of all time. I mean, it must teach some Go, and it's also entertaining, relatively.
Yeah. But to put it really, really briefly, our first foray into Go, Scott's played Go a couple times before. I played half of a game of Go once, and then I was distracted by some emergency at some anime club function,
I
had to go be the president and stop it.
At RIT, I played a few, maybe a handful of games of Go with people who actually knew what they were doing. Actually, I played a few games with someone who knew slightly more than me, but I still wasn't like a master. And then I played against some people who were like Go nutcases, and I lost every time. But I wasn't frustrated because I lost. I was frustrated because I didn't know why I lost and because it wasn't fun.
See, I have two ideas, and I'm not sure how I feel about Go, because on one hand, despite really liking these kinds of games, abstracted or semi-abstracted games of tactics and strategy and patterns.
The thing is, I'm not a fan of perfect information games.
Well, the problem is that, like, chess, people always bother me and give me shit about the fact that I don't like the game of chess at all, and I never have. I played it a lot as a kid. I'm okay at it. One of my friends he wasn't like a grandmaster or anything, but he was like a master. He was ranked. He was awesome at chess. He was kind of a savant at chess. And I don't think I ever beat him, but I played chess against him all the time. And I basically came to the conclusion that the reason I didn't like chess was that the game had, because of the manner and, I guess, depth of abstraction, it basically seemed to come down to the complex memorization of patterns, and that mattered a lot more than any tactical or strategic thought.
Yeah, it's like you couldn't sit there and sort of figure out how to solve it the same way you figure out, say, a block puzzle in a Zelda game, or that's the kind of thinking I like. Or
even the tactical situation in a war.
Yeah, it's like, well, if I move this over here, then I'll, shoot it. Chess isn't like that. Chess, I mean, I guess you could think about chess in that way, but you will lose to someone who just memorized every possible pattern.
Well, I guess let me put it this way.
And Go feels a lot like chess, only with a lot more possible patterns.
Oh, well. So, what do you got in the news?
All right, so if you are someone who still watches television, right, and you don't just get your TV shows on DVD or something, I mean, I guess that's okay for people who have a lot of time and not much to do, and they just want to watch some video.
But you should at least have a TiVo. I mean, God.
Yeah, you should at least have a TiVo or a DVR of some sort.
In fact, I would say that if you are a fan of television, like you like television shows and you have cable, not having some sort of DVR, that's like being a crackhead and not owning your own crack pipe.
Wait a minute. Was that a thing of the day once?
I hope it was.
All right.
I'll search if it wasn't Monday.
You're a crackhead. Why don't you have a crack pipe?
Seriously, you'd think that'd be the one thing you'd own.
Anyway.
Fine, it's like being a painter and having watercolors but not owning any other kind of paint.
Yep. Now, pretty much, I've looked into DVRs a little bit, and from what I can tell, TiVo is sort of the best one, sort of. It's got the best interface that's it's seemingly, and they have a good channel guide and everything like that. And a lot of people have TiVos, are really happy with TiVos and big fans of them, and they work. And if I was TV watching, maybe I'd have an HD TV, and I'd probably have an HD TiVo also. The only problem I have with TiVo, and the reason I would never get one right now, is because you have to buy the TiVo itself, and then you have to pay TiVo a monthly fee, right, for the TiVo to keep working.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the main reason why people use services like this is because you get the TV listings integrated, which is not always the easiest or freest thing to do.
No. But basically, the problem I have with TiVo is that you buy this box and you pay this monthly fee, and you're sort of stuck with TiVo, the company. You can just take your TiVo away, and they have all sorts of control over the box itself. Like, you can't do anything you want with a TiVo. You can only do what they want the TiVo to do.
I mean, remember all the problems about how they take away the 30-second skip so people can't skip ads as easily? And
yep.
To me, 30-second skip on a DVR is probably the most important function.
More important than the TV listings, that's for sure. Right? So, something, if I was going to get a DVR right now, I would opt to get something like Microsoft Media Center, which the only problem with that is it's not free. or Myth TV, which the only problem with that is it's hard to get TV listings for it that are free, at least.
And a lot of people have trouble setting it up.
Yeah, but I would just use not Myth, which just sets it up automatically, and then I would pay for the TV listings only, and I'd be all set to go.
Well, yeah, but you're smart.
And
What
the
do you
thing,
want?
the thing with that is it's so much better than TiVo because, I mean, the interface isn't as good, but you have a computer connected to your television, and that computer just has some software on it that happens to do DVR stuff, and it's actually also a computer that you can do whatever the hell you want with. And whereas the TiVo is a computer that can only do one thing, which is sort of like, what?
Yeah,
what the
remember
hell?
that guy at Dragon Con who had his Myth TV set up with pretty much every ROM ever?
Yeah, basically his TV was every arcade game ever and the TV shows he recorded.
Now, you might be thinking, Raymond Scott, he didn't have every arcade game ever. I defy you to find something he didn't have. Good God. He had,
Well,
he
because
had like 40,000,
Well, because
50,000.
unlike in MAME has a list of supported games. Like if you download MAME and run it, it'll list out all the games that it can run. It's the multiple arcade machine emulator. There's a known list of which arcade machines are emulated and what games are built on those machines. And if you get a game for MAME, that game lights up and says you can play me now. And there are torrents of every game. Anyway, this might change soon, and this is important stuff. Nero, a closed source software company, but a company that I don't really hate so much because they make high quality software. They make high quality software for Linux at a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, you might know them from Nero Burning ROM.
Yeah,
I hope you
they
get
pretty
the
much
pun.
make the best CD, DVD burning software out there. And they make a bunch of other software that's sort of but, they just attach it to their CD burning software. I guess some of it's okay, like the stuff that makes DVD and CD cover art and whatnot, but most of it's just dreck they throw in there to, sell you more dreck. But they have made a deal with TiVo. And in the next version of Nero, supposedly, there's going to be a DVR software that has the TiVo interface, and they're going to pay TiVo for this. So what's going to happen is you take a computer, plug it into your TV, and your cable box or your satellite or whatever, and then you install Nero on there, and then so you have a computer that you control that happens to run TiVo, but Nero's providing it. And I imagine it's going to have all sorts of cool functionality, such as, I don't know, download a show, record it, burn it to DVD with Nero, etc., etc. And that would probably be worth it. And I think if someone was like a super TiVo fan, it might be in their best interest to stop paying their, I guess maybe you'll still have to pay someone for TV listings or something. I don't know how that's going to work specifically, but I think the best option of the future for DVR might be get a computer, get Nero on there with the TiVo that's part of the Nero. TiVo Nero PC DVR acronym words that end in O.
Yeah, because people are really going to just figure that out and know what to do.
Yeah, I know, right? But it does seem like it's the best option for the consumer, or at least it's going to be.
Yeah, the thing
I'll have to
is,
see how much it costs.
even if I had a lot of free time, I've really gotten beyond the point of needing to, things come out and I want to see them. I want to see shows, I want to see movies, but I no longer care about seeing them when they come out or as soon as they come out because I've still got a backlog of things to watch.
I've got like a whole bunch of years left in my life, and right now I'm young, so I don't have a lot of young time. I got plenty of old time, so got to spend the young time wisely doing stuff, being productive in some way.
Yeah, like playing a plastic guitar.
Exactly. So, hey,
Right.
you could have a real plastic guitar. It wouldn't sound too great, but I imagine you could make one.
I play Guitar Hero acoustically. You didn't see that episode, did you?
No, I didn't.
Of South Park?
No.
It's okay.
Okay.
It makes the point that I would probably make, and yeah. Anyway, so there's this article on Slashdot I just linked to. I've looked at it finally because I saw it this morning, and it was about social networking and Facebook and MySpace and how it might get destroyed by something or other, and I thought the article, based on these Slashdot comments, was going to say a few things. I actually read the article just now, and I had to throw out pretty much everything I was going to say, because the article doesn't even get that far. Oh, even better, I just realized it's by Cory Doctorow. I didn't even notice.
All right.
Okay, but anyway, the title is How Your Creepy Ex-Coworkers Will Kill Facebook.
All right.
And it says in a whole bunch of words, it seems like the gist is very simply, the problem with social networking is that you can't refuse if someone else wants to be your friend. No, let me finish. And therefore, you'll have a bunch of people who are not your friends on your friend list, and that causes all sorts of problems. Now, one, you can easily refuse.
Yeah, for a long time, I was just refusing most people who wanted to be my friend. Like on Facebook, like I don't use Facebook. I signed up for it when it was new, right, way back. And I just never used it because it never really improved my life or did anything for me.
See, I couldn't. When you signed up for Facebook, I think I was already at IBM.
Maybe, but I just never used it. But I would get emails whenever anyone like friended me or messaged me or something. Usually on my birthday, because Facebook apparently told everyone when it was my birthday. So I would go into Facebook. I would, whatever messages it sent me, I would handle those messages. And usually it was people who wanted to be my friend, people I didn't know who wanted to be my friend, and I would just say no. I don't know who you are. Why are you friending me? You're not my friend. You're a stranger. And I thought recently, I was thinking, maybe the reason that these social networks are not useful to me and I'm getting no use out of them is because I don't friend anybody. It's like, isn't the point to make a network of people by friending them and then it becomes useful? So,
well, see, if we go back, though, remember before Facebook or any of that, there was Orkut.
Yep.
And we all signed up for Orkut, our little front row crew, and a lot of people at RIT we knew, and we actually used it a lot. And I remember, like, the first time when someone I didn't really know, but they seemed to be a friend to someone I knew, and they wanted to be my friend. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go beyond using this as my kind of personal forum to talk with my friends and schedule events and all that fun stuff and share pictures. I'm going to make a new friend. And I said, yes, you can be my friend. And then, the next day, I wake up. I'm about to skip class and play Counter-Strike, and I go to Orkut. And I had like 400 Portuguese spam messages from friends of friends of friends of friends of friends. And I learned that day that friending people you don't know in social networking is probably the stupidest thing you could ever do in your entire life.
Right, so recently...
Short of getting in cars with strangers.
So recently I said, you know what, I'm going to try it, people have been talking and I'm going to friend anyone who asks. So I put out a message and I said, hey, I've been having a policy of not friending people I don't know. Social networks have been useless to me. I'm going to friend anyone who asks. And I've been friending everyone who asks. And you know what? The social networks are no more useful to me than they were before. It's just a waste of time. It doesn't do anything for me.
I think because this article kind of complains about social networks, and I don't really want to talk so much about this article, but just in general, a lot of people hate on social networking, and they give a lot of reasons, like people will stalk you, or kids will put their information up online. Or like this one says, if your boss demands to be your friend, it's very awkward and dangerous to say no. And it's hard to, it's a social taboo to say no when someone wants to friend you, even though I think anyone who feels that way has got serious problems.
I do. If you put value in whether someone says yes or no to friendship on Facebook, you got a problem.
But
I mean, like, maybe if Rim wouldn't want to be my friend, I'd be like, what the fuck, but...
Yeah, but I can see where the social awkwardness might come. Let's say, for example, we had a friend in the crew, Joey Jojo Shabadoo.
Oh, Joey Jojo.
And, we hang out with Joey Jojo, but we're not super friends with Joey Jojo. We had a lot of people like that at RIT when we were freshmen. Like, the crew, we all met, the front row crew. But there were like 30 other people at all the different clubs that we all kind of knew, and they were all kind of our friends, but they weren't super our friends. And over time, we weren't really that much hanging out with them because a lot of them we didn't really like so much. Like, it's not like, oh, they were bad people.
They're just, they're people that, you know their face, you maybe know their name, they're acquaintances, but they're not like your friends. You don't hang out with them, you don't call them up, you don't go to their parties, you see them around, especially, co-workers and fellow students and stuff like that.
Or like at RIT, let's see, there was Duck Boy.
Yeah, they're people you see and people you know, but they're not your friends. You don't have any emotional attachment to them.
Now
or
imagine
anything. You don't trust them, or
well, there was also that Steve. Now imagine if someone out there, or let's say I'll use myself. I think I'm cool with this group of people. Like, I'm friends with this guy. All men were friends. And you know that scene in a lot of movies or TV shows where, like, the guy who's kind of awkward or not really the real friend gives someone a ride home, and then the guy like goes into his house and the friend's standing outside like, so you want to do something? I'm kind of busy. Well, maybe some other time. Yeah, maybe some other time. Click. It's the same situation. Someone you're not really friends with is like, hey, You want to be my friend on Facebook? And saying no is basically telling them in no uncertain terms that you're not really my friend.
Well, I think the problem there, right, is that in person, right, like a lot of people, like fanboys, like super fanboys, you know, with social, basically lacking social skills completely, right? They don't, it's sort of like this huge grayscale. Like they don't, like you can like brush someone off, but then they won't feel like they're brushed off. And there's all these social,
like, nah, man, sorry, I'm busy, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some other time. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Anime Club was a good example. I was the president. My job after a showing was to pretty much mingle around, be visible, talk to everyone in the club, make everyone feel like they were my friend, whether they were or weren't. And Scott could tell, and all my real friends could tell, when I was genuinely talking to someone and when I was fake talking to someone, as in these, like, haha, yeah, that's great,
When you're in person talking to someone, there's so much subtlety and complexity to a social situation. It can turn out all sorts of ways, but when you bring it down to friend or not friend, it's sort of like you can't be subtle about it. You can't be, there's no delicacy, there's nothing like that. So it's just flat out, you are my friend or you're not, instead of like, you know, the relationship you had, you know, which was, hey, what's up? It's not like you're my enemy, but what choice do I have? Either you're my friend or you're not.
And some things, like I think Orkut had an acquaintance level and all these levels of friendship, but then how come he's a friend and I'm an acquaintance? Of course, the answer to that is anyone who says that, you probably didn't actually want to hang out with in the first place, and you're probably better off when they stop talking to you.
But I actually, my new thinking is this on the social networks, right? We use Google for domains, right? So all the front row crew people.
You stole my thunder. I was going to say almost the same thing. Go ahead.
We chat with each other on our own semi-private IM network. We email each other. We calendar each other.
Not just that. We have our own forum. I mean, you guys use the front row crew forums, and I really like our forums. Like, I hang out with all of you on that forum, and I really like it. But the crew itself, we have kind of a secret internal forum where we also use that forum for our own business. Don't ask to be on. We're not going to give you an account, but...
Yeah, but I mean, basically, we already have Google for domains and a forum, you know, for our group of friends. We have a group of friends. There's like, you know, a whole bunch of us, the front row crew, and we all have things that we use already. And I feel like if I didn't have those things,
I'd be all about the Facebook.
Then Facebook does those things also. So I'd probably be using that, you know, to schedule events or to talk, you know, invite people to things and all that kind of stuff.
If you have a wide, you know, especially if you're coming out of college, you have dozens and dozens and dozens of friends, hopefully even more, and you all kind of get spread out, maybe little clumps around the country, but you want to stay in touch and do stuff. But how annoying is it to have to call people to stay in touch with them? Or like, oh, we're all going to have a party in December. Well, I got to call Bill, and Bill's got to call Joey Jojo Shabadoo. And by having this kind of social network situation, it's a great way to use technology to coordinate among friends without having to put forth effort that if life gets difficult or you don't have time, you might not have time to do, and then you lose touch with people that you didn't want to. And if we didn't have our own social network already, we'd be all about the Facebook.
Yeah.
Not the MySpace.
I guess it's just for me, I see that there has uses, but it doesn't have any uses for me. And I also see a lot of people lately are using it basically for promotional purposes. And it's not always big companies doing marketing. It's, you know, some guy with his blog, you know, he might use his Facebook, quote, legitimately, but he also uses it to try to, like, push a blog story he wrote or something. And I don't know if there's anything good or bad about that, but that's not what, you know, if it's really a close circle of friends who are, you know, your real friends and you're just doing your stuff that friends do, that kind of stuff doesn't go down there, really. And that's why I kind of like not using some social network like that that's all connected with a billion people.
Well, I think the real issue, all the people who complain about social networks complain about not so much the technology, because they're really complaining about the fact that people use them, I don't want to say wrong, but a lot of people use social networks in ways that I feel, personally, are counterproductive, not possibly the best use of your time.
A lot of you like sit there and like they just sit on Facebook for a long time doing, I don't know what, like it's some sort of video game or something.
Or people who, there's so many of these kids who how many friends they have is such a big deal. And look at, you see a lot of like 12, 13-year-old punk kids in Facebook or MySpace, and they have like 100,000 friends, and their friends all have 100,000 friends, and they're just trying to make this number go up.
There's really some sort of psychology in this of the software, and I think that's what we really have to study is like the psychology of how people interact with. Because really, all you're doing, there might not be. Imagine if you were sitting at Facebook and it was exactly the way it is, but on the other, there were no actual real people using it. It's just you interacting with this interface on a computer screen, and there's a psychology to that I think gets people doing weird stuff. And you study that.
Things of the day. So, I saw something today. Something bad.
Very bad.
Real bad.
Disgusting.
Let me put it this way. This video is not that thing. Because I would never make something like that my thing of the day. But, this video has a little bit of merit, and basically, I assume they got this grandmother's permission ahead of time. Like, all right, Grandma, we're going to show you something disturbing. Are you prepared to watch something disturbing? How bad could it be, Sonny? Well, you're about to find out. There's this new video going around the internet.
Relatively new, at least as far as I can tell.
As in, I didn't know about it.
I discovered it. Some listener sent it to me, but I was at work, and I turned it on, and the first thing I saw in the video was some lesbians, so I turned it off. And then I was like, what the hell's up with this? I'm at work, dude. And he's like, oh, it's just it's basically the new Goatsy, the new tub girl. You saw those horrible pictures on the internet in the olden days. Well, it was only a matter of time before there was a horrible video. And here is the new trump card as far as disgusting things on the internet go.
Now, my thing of the day is a grandmother watching this thing and reacting to it. And I think I'll have to warn you about one thing. One, you might get the impression from watching the grandmother that it can't be that bad. She's just a grandmother. I think I'm desensitized to everything. I've never seen something more disgusting. I don't recommend you watch it. But yeah, watch this grandma, because there's one funny thing I can say is that hearing this music and kind of just the background noise of that video, just hearing that while the grandmother watches is in and of itself hilarious and lends a very almost sinister quality to what might be going on that screen.
Yeah, it's like this is actually so disgusting that you don't want to watch it. Like, you can look at Goatsy and it's disgusting, but you'll be all right.
I mean, there is something to say for desensitization. I mean,
yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Goatsy. I was in a Usenet or something somewhere, and someone was like, blah, 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 Goatsy. And someone else is like, Link? What's this Goatsy? And someone else is like, here it is. And I was like, I wonder what that is. Click. And it was awful, and I didn't know what to do. It was there looking at me, and I was looking back at it. I had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had stared back at me.
Yeah, now Goatsy, whatever.
Goatsy's nothing. I could have a poster of Goatsy. It wouldn't bother me.
Right, but this new video, relatively new video, is just... It has raised the bar on disgusting and disturbing things on the internet.
I applaud you, disgusting people, for having done this. But at the same time, I think it's a bar that I hope is never raised higher, but sadly I know will be.
Would you rather have not seen it?
You know what?
Because I avoid watching it. I think I'm going to succeed.
On one hand, I thought I should avoid it, but then I decided that it was intellectual curiosity in the sense that people are really making a shitstorm about how bad this is. And people made the same shitstorm when Goatsy and Lemon Party and Tub Girl and all those kind of horrible things were found by the internet. And, this time, the shitstorm is justified both in a metaphorical and a literal sense. Good God.
Yeah, but I take the idea that rather than ever watch the disgusting thing itself, which I'm going to try to avoid doing because I was listening. Rim was watching it, and I was just covering my eyes and listening.
Let me put it this way. I'm pretty cool-headed. Like, there's not much, people who know me, that can, I guess, get my goat. There's not much that'll cause me to scream or lose my temper or get frightened or anything or startled or anything. But, I was watching and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to sit here stoically and watch this. How bad could it be? And I could not help from saying, oh my God. And then followed by that, oh my God.
Yeah, so if Rim was based on what I heard Rim saying, I knew this was probably something I wanted to avoid, and I think your best bet is to just watch people watching it to sort of get the idea of the terribleness.
Kind of like when that guy showed Ron Jeremy Goatsy. You don't want to see Goatsy, but seeing Ron Jeremy first looking at it and trying to figure out what it is, and then backing away in horror as he realizes what it is priceless.
Yeah, so just watch this grandma watch the disgusting video and never watch the disgusting video yourself if you can help it.
However, I guess if something worse comes out, I don't know. Maybe that
if a worse video comes out and you say that the newer video is worse, I will watch this one that is new now.
So you're gonna stay one step behind.
I'll stay one step behind.
Well, I guess the same rule applies to video cards and microprocessors as it does to
disgusting videos.
Something like that.
All
Man,
right.
I remember way back when we were in college and we thought that butt hot dog was the most disgusting thing ever made.
You know, I didn't think butt hot dog was so disgusting. It was more humorous.
I only thought it was
sort of an X-rated Monty Python kind of way.
I guess the only reason I didn't think it was funny, I mean, I guess I could see it being funny if I knew it was faked, or at least if the second half of it was faked.
Oh, all I remember was a butt and a hot dog coming out of it.
I think you forget the second half where someone eats a hot dog unawares.
Oh, I thought
That's not cool.
See, I thought that was just a guy eating a separate hot dog and was edited.
See, that's the thing. I hope it's that way. That video's really funny if it's that way. But if that is not, in fact, a cheap edit and that they did, in fact, feed that hot dog, not cool, dude.
Nah,
not cool.
Not cool at all. All right, so whenever I can't find a thing of the day, there is one thing in the world that I can always rely on to provide an incredibly humorous thing of the day.
Why would this be none other than the broadcast television of the great nation of Japan?
Have you listened to Geeknights before? Or what?
So, what elaborate prank did the Japanese people beset upon some poor foreigner this time?
How did you know it was an elaborate prank pulled on a foreigner?
I don't know. A guess? A hunch? Maybe a notion?
Maybe because that's what it always is.
Sometimes they get Japanese people.
All right, so, there's a sport of basically speed walking, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, speed walking, stupid, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, screw you. It's good exercise. It's really hard, and while it's boring to watch, it's not nearly as boring as NASCAR.
Right. So basically what speed walking is, if you don't know...
If you need to know what the word speed walking
means... Well, I'm going to
actually
tell you specifically. It's not just speed walking. You see...
Well, it is.
I know, but when a person...
Very specifically.
When a human being runs, right, the gait of a human being while running, there is a point at which both feet are off the ground. You're basically launching yourself into the air with one foot, landing with the other foot, launching yourself into the air again, and it's sort of like, horses have different gaits, like a trot and a gallop.
Well, I think horses have walk, trot, gallop, and humans have walk, skip, run. I'm not going to get into skipping.
We can just do a show on skipping.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Because
right.
Skipping gets a bad rap.
It does.
Skipping is awesome.
Right, but run, basically, you're in the air completely. You could even say you're jumping, right? Walking... when you're walking, are both feet off the ground simultaneously. Only one foot is off the ground at a time, and you go 1 foot off the ground, both feet on the ground. 1 foot on the ground, both feet on the ground, right? So speed walking is going as fast as you can, but you always have at least 1 foot touching the ground, always. And when people do speed walking competitions, they have judges watching their feet to make sure that always 1 foot is on the ground.
It's
or else you're cheating.
It's really good exercise if you care.
Yep. Anyway, they have some world champion speed walking guy from Latin America somewhere.
You sure he's not from Spain?
He might be from Spain. He speaks Spanish, Portuguese, something like that. I can't really tell. I'm sorry.
I watched it once. My guess is that he is Spanish from the nation of Spain, but I am probably wrong, and I apologize.
I have no idea. He's Hispanic. So the guy, they bring him to Japan, and they don't set this up in the video, but apparently he had watched some TV show, they had a TV, I guess a closed circuit TV, and they tricked him into thinking that there was a prison nearby and that some dangerous Shinsengumi had broken out of the prison.
And they were going around killing people, and they had all these extra security guards
so
at the event.
They bring him to this track, and they have him go around the track speed walking, and, so he's going. And they have these samurai actors, Shinsengumi guys, hanging out.
And all these cops.
And these police. And so they were wondering, the question here is, if you scare the speed walking champion guy, will he run or will he walk?
Now, when Scott showed this to me and I'm watching, all I could think was, all right, is the guy going to actually be afraid or not? And that just comes down to, does he know that samurai don't really exist anymore?
Has he ever watched Japanese television?
Or does he know anything about Japan?
Yeah. So basically, he goes around the track. The samurai come out and they cut down some guards or pretend to cut down some guards.
Well, it's so clever. It starts out where like they walk out like, and they kick down like this trash can and make a bunch of noise.
They're pretty good actors.
And you see the guy turn around, like he hears the noise and the video, like he looks back a little bit and he sees some commotion and looks forward again because he's got to keep his pace. It's kind of hard to speed run. And then
speed walk.
Speed walk. Yeah, speed running. Slow running.
Yeah,
okay.
we should have the slowest running. You have to take both feet off the ground with every step, but you can't.
There was a Calvin and Hobbes about that. I believe Hobbes just started going backwards.
Oh.
Anyway.
I would just stand there with 1 foot on the ground and 1 foot off the ground and be like, I'm still taking my first run step here.
But the moment when the moment of truth in this video, as I'm watching it, and Scott's just watching me watch it, because you know that the greatest pleasure in the world after already experiencing something is watching someone else experience the exact same thing. That's why I can watch Utena 1,000 times, because I always show it to someone new.
Yep.
But he turns around a second time to see the guard being cut down by the Shinsengumi in epic fashion. And at that moment, you can see his face. And Scott, what was the expression on his face? Was it, haha, they're playing a joke? Or was it, oh my god, I'm going to die?
I think it was, aw, shit.
The guy was afraid. He
Yeah, he was actually afraid of getting killed by these samurai. So, you can watch the video for yourself.
It's, epic.
I think it's a funny video.
It's not as good as perhaps my favorite video ever, which is urinal going on top of the building while someone's using it.
That's a good one, but that's my second favorite. My number one ski slope is in the sauna, and then you're outside in the snow.
I think the best part of the sauna one was that, oh no, you're in the snow naked, but the wall goes right back up. So you look around, and you're just some idiot who's out naked in the snow.
Yep.
There's no explanation for that. Someone walking by wouldn't think, oh, he got pranked. Well, I guess if in Japan they think, well, he got pranked. But someone normal walking by would think, wow, that guy's naked and outside on a mountain. What the fuck?
There's nothing, I gotta say this again. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say this. There's nothing more in this world, probably not much more, that I want more than
Dennis
for someone
Moore.
to do a
Dennis Moore.
to do a Japanese style prank show in the United States and to have a fat indignant person get caught in it.
That reminds me of an email we just got. I think I'll use that as a geek back next week.
Go for it.
But also, I would just like to note, kind of a rhetorical question. What does it say about Japan as a nation and as a people, wherein their television will go to such lengths to find someone who is world famous in a sport, who is a foreigner, discover whether or not they know if samurai exist or not, and then fly them to Japan with no goal at all other than...
I think he might have been there for some speed walking competitions.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I would believe. I wouldn't faze me at all if there was no purpose to this. They had flown him out just to prank him.
That I would believe it, but I don't think it's true.
But just the sheer level of preparation, my head is off.
Yes, quite so.
So,
what are we talking about?
I think it was musical instruments.
Ah, okay.
Maybe we should talk about why we're
Tubas?
talking about musical instruments.
Saxophones?
See, tubas are nice. I like sousaphones, but tubas are much superior.
All right, well, I think I can explain the musical instrument show by telling my personal history of musical instrument playing, which isn't too long, unlike Rim's, which is much longer.
But it does lead up to something very important that, actually, I kind of feel like it'd be cool if all of you kind of, I don't know, joined in with us on this. But we'll get to that at the very end.
All right, so... I was a little kid, and when you're a little kid, musical instruments. I had a toy xylophone. I had a harmonica, like a one, the kind that has two rows of holes, one on top of the other, and I basically couldn't play it when I was a kid.
My favorite one.
Move it back and forth.
I had a toy trumpet that had some buttons, and all you had to do was blow into the mouthpiece, and it made it like a recorder sound.
I had when I got to like 4th grade. Well, actually, no, in elementary school there was a band, but there were like 10 kids in it because I think you had to pay a ludicrous amount of money. I couldn't even figure out how to get into it, right? Because the school wasn't paying for bands anymore, and I think by the time I was done with elementary school,
You realize no school.
there was no more elementary school band.
You know how a few schools pay for musical instruments? I mean, you can join the
Right.
band, but you got to buy your trumpet.
We had music class in elementary school, but it was basically like there's like some bongos and like a crappy little kid xylophone and maybe those, what are those like little it's not like a harp, but it lies flat and it's got a lot of strings, but
A glockenspiel?
no, it's like a little tiny one for kids.
Oh, a xylophone?
No, it's
A
strings.
chimes?
It's strings.
Oh.
You pluck the strings, but it's like it's
A
little.
lyre? A lute? A banjo? A guitar?
Maybe is it a clavichord?
Doesn't matter.
I don't know, but I would just play little instruments in class or whatever. Whatever.
We didn't even get instruments. My music classes in elementary school consisted of either a horrible she-bitch of a nun yelling at us for...
It's not a clavichord.
Scott plus Wikipedia equals win. But, or when I finally got to, a public elementary school where I didn't have a nun yelling at me all the time for asking questions like, how come God doesn't do this? Or what about Darwin? But I digress.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's like a harpsichord, but like you could sit on your lap and there's no keys to hit the strings. You just hit them with your fingers.
Scott, a harpsichord has keys. That's like
I
the
know,
most
but
fundamental part of a harpsichord.
but it
is
looks
that
like- it
you hit
looks
a key
like a
and it plucks the
harpsichord.
string. It's like saying a guitar, just like a piano, but instead of keys, you just kind of stick your hand.
If anyone
in
knows
there.
what this instrument is, just tell me. But anyway, all right. So that and they also made us play the recorder, and everyone had to buy a recorder.
Oh,
and
recorders! That most wonderful of
I
instruments.
actually kind of like the recorder, and I would always play.
I like recorders. You know what I don't like?
Hmm?
Being in 5th grade with 40 kids who all have recorders, and there's no teacher in the room, or there's a substitute teacher wearing earplugs.
Yeah, and you know what I learned how to play on the recorder?
Hot cross buns.
Well, that.
Hot cross buns.
But I learned.
something. Hot cross buns.
I also learned how to play. Oh,
Oh, you realize I could play that on like every toy instrument I had because that's pretty much as
Oh.
far as I can tell the easiest song to play.
And who could forget the slide flute? Woo!
Oh, yeah.
woo, woo. All right. So
Ever tried to play a song on one of those? Doesn't happen.
no, it's that's why clowns use it. So I started actually playing an instrument for reals in 5th grade when I went and took guitar lessons for reals, like at the YMCA. So I went to the YMCA and there were a whole bunch of kids, and this one guy taught everyone how to play guitar. And I was one of like the 3 kids who didn't suck royally. So we moved, he taught the whole mess of kids at 1 hour, and then he taught me and the 2 other kids who didn't suck in like the 2nd hour, And then eventually those 2 kids who also didn't suck, I don't know what happened to them, but I eventually took private lessons with the guy at the local YMCA, and I was playing this guitar that my grandparents had in their basement like forever. It's like, it came from like Mexico. It was like one of those, the kind of acoustic guitar that a Mexican guy plays in a Mexican restaurant, That's what it sounded like. And I was okay at it, but I never really practiced it. And I would just go to the lesson every week, and I would be better at it each week from the lesson, but I wasn't practicing or trying to get better or anything. And, I didn't really appreciate it or enjoy it as much as I, as I should have, I guess. So in 6th grade, when there was actually a band in school to join, I joined the school band because the other choices, they only had 3 choices, which was music theory, band, and chorus. And I wasn't going to sing.
Well, you had to pick a music of some kind?
I had to pick one of the 3.
That's great, actually. I think that more schools should do that.
Yeah, and music theory was basically the cop-out joke for people who didn't want to actually do anything. So,
Oh, man, because music theory in my high school was, oh my God,
this is
you'll
middle
fail.
school. This is middle school.
Oh, yeah.
This is middle school, and music theory was basically, get to play with keyboards and MIDI, kinda. And not really. So I took band, and I played the clarinet because guitar was not an instrument in the band, right? And, I kind of like the klezmer action. That's why I chose that more than the other things. Plus, the clarinet was cheaper than some of the other... I guess drums are the cheapest, but I actually wanted to do something that took more skills.
Well, drums are the cheapest in that all you need to practice, especially
Well,
in
it's
a
that
middle school band.
the school provided the drums, so you just had to buy drumsticks. That's why it was the cheapest.
Also, they would have made you buy a practice pad, which is great. It's
$10.
Yeah, it's a little pad, and you can play like a snare drum on it, but you're not going to make a lot of noise and make your mom kill you.
Exactly. So I played the clarinet, and I was actually not too bad at it.
Now clarinet's a good choice because if you want to be all cool with it, it's not a far cry to go from clarinet to soprano saxophone, which is awesome. In a jazz band.
I could have just chosen saxophone right.
No,
from the
you don't
beginning.
want it. All the kids. It seems like a lot of people who get into music when they're kids, they look and they don't think about what they'd actually want to play or what they'd be good at. They think about what looks cool. And what looks cooler than either a gigantic tuba that's bigger than you, or maybe a drum set, even though they give you a drum set.
And why is it always the really tall people who play the trombone? I don't get it.
You know what? I'll get to that because there's in people who play music, not just in high schools and whatever. I know a lot of you are in high school and college and playing in bands, but even out in the real gigging world, there's kind of stereotypes about who plays different instruments, and I don't know if it's...
I think this is psychology of it. You have a personality and you look, and the instruments, the way they look appeals to a certain personality. So when you aren't already a musician and you're thinking about becoming one, you look at the instruments and different looks and sounds of different instruments appeal to different types of people.
See, I don't know, because it also...
makes sense. That's just my
other ideas
armchair
are
psychologies.
That it might be a kind of self-perpetuating cycle where the people who get kids into music and the people who know music and teach music... The way they teach, different instruments appeal to different kinds of people more due to the instruction and the culture.
That could be possible, too.
But everyone wants to play the goddamn
theory.
Saxophone.
Yeah, there were a lot more If the band teacher had chosen, I need this many this and this many this and this many this to get the best sound.
Which we did.
There would have been far fewer as middle school. There would have been far fewer saxophones.
I'm talking about middle school.
Oh, okay.
You realize pretty much everyone wanted to play the saxophone in my middle school, and they said, there are only going to be 12 saxophone players. We are going to choose based on... I'll get to that.
Anyway, so I played the clarinet, and I played the clarinet for 3 years, and I didn't really practice it, but despite my almost complete lack of practicing, I was able to play all the songs for all the concerts, and I was one of the top 3 clarinet people in the middle school. And in high school, the first year, sort of by momentum, I kept playing, but I didn't want to join the marching band. And they basically came down to the middle school, and they were like, join the marching band. And I was like, And I thought about it, and I was like, I don't want to do that right now. I'll go to high school, and I'll play you could play in the concert band, which is basically more of this, the same thing, only, in high school with the high school people. And I'm like, if I want to do the marching band, I'll just start in the second year, whatever, right? And in high school, I just sort of got really disinterested entirely. I was like, I don't really care so much about this anymore. And I was still one of the top 5 people in the concert band with the clarinet. And
there's reasons for that.
Yeah, because I actually, I knew how to read music and play it, and I played well, and I tried. I just didn't practice in my spare time or enjoy it very much. So I didn't join the marching band, and after my first year of high school playing the clarinet, I gave up the clarinet, and then I didn't play a musical instrument for a while. And the problem was, is that in my later high school years, starting in 11th and 12th grade, I realized I had made a miscalculation earlier in my life.
Oh?
Yes. You see, remember in 5th grade, I played that guitar with that guy. I was not appreciating very much. And then in 6th grade, I picked up the clarinet instead, and I dropped the guitar. And then by 9th grade, I was not appreciating that either. But starting around 11th grade, I started to appreciate the guitar a lot more, but I did not know how to play it anymore.
Ah.
And I thought, well, all those awesome guitar people, they've been playing since they were 3. What's the point of even starting now? I can't even afford a guitar. That old one was piece of shit, and the neck is all warped and whatever, and it's I don't have time for it. It's not going to happen. Even though I was sort of basically, I didn't really have the urge to start playing the guitar, even though I thought it would be fun to have an electric guitar with the distortion all up and start, just hitting the strings to make it go down. I thought that'd be cool, but other than that, I didn't really want to learn or have time or care, but I was sort of sort of sad that I lost the opportunity to. I kept thinking, like, man, if I had not stopped playing the guitar, I would be a badass right now. Damn it.
Yeah, because even people, and this is kind
Like,
of
think about it. If I hadn't stopped ever, right now, like, the podcast would be like opening and closing with Scott rocking out. I'd be like.
The only reason it's not Rim on a Trumpet is just that I haven't played the trumpet much in the last, 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was really good at learning musical instruments. I had a skill. I wasn't like a, sort of an awesome kind of gonna be the best in the world, Steve Vai kind of amazingness. But I was good at learning musical instruments and playing them. I just didn't enjoy it so much when I was young, so I gave it up. And then I was upset later that I gave it up. So recently, I've been thinking,
I don't get to tell my story?
Oh, you want to tell your story first?
I do.
And then I'll do the recently?
I think we should. We want to end on the important part.
Okay.
Because the important part is kind of cool.
All right, so tell your story.
We've gone on a while because we talked a lot in the beginning. We've
That's
talked a lot
fine.
now, so I'm going to give a
Whatever. People will enjoy this episode, I think.
Yeah, I think they will, but I'll qualify all this by saying that I'm going to give a very abbreviated history because unlike Scott, it's not just that I was really into music or I was good at it or anything, but I was into music to the point that I was very close to going to school for music and being a professional musician instead of going into computers. I had a full ride to Arizona State and a couple other places with band, scholarship, whatever, and I was pretty much 50-50 computers, trumpet. And I kind of chose to go to RIT, and I kind of chose to do IT and all that stuff, kind of on a total whim.
Uh-huh.
But to skip all my early childhood, where my parents bought me a million instruments, and I had a harmonica, and I had a recorder, and I had an ocarina, and I had a little electric keyboard, a Casio, and then I
had a little tiny electric keyboard too, but I couldn't play for shit. Actually, we had a real piano we still have that piano in my house. It's not a grand piano; it's the stand-up tall kind that you always see in saloons. And I think my grandmother bought it like a zillion years ago. Well, I guess not a zillion, but 50 years ago. They either paid $50 or like $500 for it. I think it was $500 for that piano way back, which is a ludicrous price for a piano. Of course, I think these are like...
What? You know how much pianos cost?
A lot.
Yeah.
Which is why it was a great price.
Okay, ludicrous as in good. For some reason, I was thinking ludicrous as in...
Of course, I think those are like 1960s dollars or maybe even 1950s. I don't know, but we still have the piano. It's still in tune. My brother took piano lessons, and then he stopped too, and he was in the marching band, whatever, but we don't care about my brother.
Suffice to say, I played the piano a lot. And by playing the piano, I mean my grandma had this old Hammond organ, and I had a Casio keyboard, and I just sit there kind of banging on it and trying to make it sound good. And
I could never make my little Casio keyboard sound good.
Well, it didn't for a long time, but I kind of taught myself music by ear, and I started, I didn't know any words for it or terms for it, but I knew the difference between major keys and minor keys, and I'd kind of figured out a lot of it on my own as a kid.
See, when I learned to play musical instruments, basically all I did was I taught myself to look at musical notes, musical score, and translate that into the, movements of my hands and mouth or whatever to actually make that music play. I never understood or learned the music theory or any of that, majors, minors. That stuff still completely eludes me. I don't get it.
See, I never
tried to learn it. I never understood it.
And I think that for most people to become great as opposed to just good, that is beyond a requirement. Not just to know it, but to, I would say, start with that. At least a basic understanding of I guess there's talent and skill. And I think you can get skill. You can probably be the best instrument player in the world on all skill or all talent, but I feel like having the talent or even building up the skill first of being able to kind of hear and play by ear and just understand what sounds good and what doesn't, even if you don't necessarily understand why, but just knowing kind of intuitively what will sound good will make you a much better musician in the long run.
Yeah, I had nothing. All I could do is look at notes on paper or look at some sort of, thing on, some sort of symbology and then figure out which mechanics that I had to perform to make that turn into music, and that's all I ever learned. But I was really good at it.
Yeah, but I dabbled in the piano, and I still dabble. I consider myself a mediocre piano player at best.
I would say so.
Well, I can play by ear. I don't have piano skill. I have music skill. So I know what chords, or I know what melody, or I know what I want, but basically, my left hand just kind of bangs itself against the keyboard ineffectively. But my real instrument, the reason I really got into music was that, 4th grade, 5th grade, it's time to pick an instrument, go into the band, because it was pretty much a foregone conclusion for my parents that I was going to join the band in school.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Mr. Danforth, who was this ancient, gigantically fat man who was a professional musician for most of his life and was in the military band and fought in World War II. I'll get to why that was important. And he wore, every time we had a concert, I remember he wore a tuxedo that was perhaps 1 second at any time from exploding.
Is that why you always see that joke on Looney Tunes? So like the guys wearing the tux, the conductor, and like the front part just like rolls up like a...
This guy was that guy.
Awesome.
But he taught in a very old school way. There's this kind of like Prussian military band style. But he came to our elementary school and he's like, all right, you kids, we're going to figure out what instruments you're good at. And then if you want to join the band, I'm going to tell you what you're going to play. And you had to apply to play an instrument. So pretty much the people who he, based on his years of experience, thought would be the best at X instrument would be the ones playing X instrument. And you had no say at all, other than you kind of had like a second choice. But if you wanted to play the saxophone and he already decided that 6 other kids were better at the saxophone than you weren't going to play the saxophone no matter what your parents yelled and screamed about.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this realization. Because he brought one of every instrument and one of every mouthpiece, and he passed them all out, and I had a clarinet reed, and I went, and nothing happened. He didn't really tell us what to do. He just kind of wanted to see who could figure it out intuitively. He gave you a trumpet mouthpiece, and I thought, I have a trumpet at home, that toy trumpet, because I was a little kid, and I blew in it, and it went,
Yep.
That wasn't what I had to do.
Nope.
And basically no one made any noises except some squeaking, awful, awful noises from the saxophone mouthpieces. And 2 people broke oboe reeds before he stopped handing those out. So then he explains how to play them all. And then we pass them all around again, and I wasn't able to make anything sound except the trumpet. I made a trumpet buzz. It went, and it sounded kind of like a little fart. And then, after we did all this, he administered all these tests where we had to listen to 2 notes and say if they were different. Basically, he was testing to see if any of us had perfect pitch. And if you had perfect pitch, you were guaranteed a spot in the band no matter what. And then from there, he basically tested us to see who would be a good musician. And he wouldn't let anyone else join the band.
Yeah.
And then we had to rank what instruments we wanted to play. And he matched that up based on how good he thought we were and some other factors. And my logic for playing the trumpet was very simple, being a 4th grader. Or 5th grader, I forget which. Might have been 5th grade. I said to myself, all right, saxophone has like 40 buttons. Trombone has no buttons, but it's not discreet, and I'm worried by that. Tuba's too big. All those things are too big. That trumpet only has 3 buttons. How hard could it be? So I wanted to be a trumpet player. And that is what began my illustrious career. Now, the funny thing is, I learned later, after a few weeks, one day he went around the room and he talked about how the old school way, like how when he was a kid, in like 1700, how you would decide who would play an instrument. And he went down the line of trumpet players and he pointed at us one by one and he's like, trombone, clarinet, trombone. You wouldn't be in a band. You'd be an English trumpet player. What's that mean? It means you'd be bad. And he said like 3 of us would be trumpet players, and I was one of them. And then he did the same thing for the saxophones and the tubas and everything. And then at the end, he started explaining why. And basically, being good at a brass instrument, and this seems to be fairly true, comes down a lot to not necessarily practice or skill or talent, but what kind of lips you were born with.
Well, couldn't you? That's something I never understood. It's like, okay, obviously, better lips, different kind of shape. You're better at playing the instrument.
It's
but
more than just
couldn't
that.
you make a different mouthpiece that would accommodate different lips?
See, you can, and you're all sorts of kinds of mouthpieces. The problem is there's trade-offs in both directions, and if you have quote-unquote crappy lips for playing the trumpet or the trombone, you can still make a trombone noise, but it's not going to sound good. It's going to be bad tone, usually. And you can try to train yourself, but if your lips aren't thick enough or whatever, you're probably going to hurt yourself. There are a lot of people who play the trumpet or some instrument, and they cause permanent nerve damage or otherwise damage themselves from playing an instrument just because their lips weren't strong enough or thick enough or whatever to deal with the insane amount of pressure they were applying. And they were applying that pressure because they didn't have the whatever to actually do it properly. They couldn't make a proper embouchure. And I guess you could try to make some fancy sort of mouthpiece or some special instrument, but there are reasons why that doesn't work so well. And I should probably skip all that because I could go on for hours about the theory of making a proper trumpet embouchure.
All right.
I'll say, however, that is very similar to the proper embouchure for an oboe, surprisingly. Yeah. But yeah, skip a whole bunch. I was real good at the trumpet, real good. And I got to high school, and I went to a high school that was different from the high school I should have gone to because my family moved, so they wouldn't let me play the trumpet. There were already like 30 trumpet players because we were a really big marching band. So I had to play the mellophone, which is basically a bastardized French horn that kind of looks like a flugelhorn that you play in a marching band. Even though cool people can march with a French horn, but you probably shouldn't anyway. I'll skip all that. And I was real good at it. And then after that, marching season ends, and we have to audition to join the band again. It's not just like a lot of schools, kind of like my middle school was. I guess I was lucky where if you want to be in the band, you're in the band. No, you had to audition. And if you weren't good, as in pretty damn good, you were in the concert band, which basically meant you're not going anywhere. You're going to play kind of crappy music forever. People get a credit and that's it. Or the symphonic band, which was the real band. Or the wind ensemble, which was the really real band that went all over the country. And by all over the country, I mean pretty much to like 5 different places and Toronto.
Yeah, see, our high school had all sorts of different bands. Like, they had the symphonic band and the jazz band and whatever, right? But, like, the symphonic band was pretty much the marching band people sit down and do a concert for part of the year when it's not marching band season. And the jazz band was the guys in the marching band who think they're really cool also do a jazz band part of the year, And it was all the same people.
Our high school jazz band played gigs for money.
Yeah, ours, they all just did concerts at the school,
Wow.
for whatever.
Actually, we did a lot of concerts at like local venues as real events.
They went around and did stuff, but I didn't really know about it because I wasn't paying attention to them.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, Michigan and the Midwest are really big on marching band. Like, marching band is a big deal for a lot of people out there. So I was hardcore into the marching band. And there's also a lot of non-marching just competition, like the MSBOA and all these sorts of people would compete all over the place in music. And there's similar things in most states in the country. There's probably similar things all over the world and all over everywhere. But I played this kind of easy song my freshman year in high school with 2 other trumpet players. The 3 of us were pretty much, to quote our band director, the only people who actually had a chance of being professionals in the whole school. Not counting the drummer, but that's a whole fun story. And we played this thing called Bugler's Holiday, which is a fun little song that a lot of trumpet players play when they're young. And we played it in a little competition. And we were freshmen. And this guy walks in after we're just kind of practicing in the room before. And he introduces himself as kind of a recruiter for the University of Michigan. And he's looking for people to give scholarships to come play in the marching band and full rides. And when he found out that 3 of us were freshmen, he basically said, "Holy shit. Here's my card. Call me back in a few years and we'll talk."
All right.
And I'll just stop there because this is probably kind of boring. I keep skipping things, and as a result, I'm probably only telling the boring parts. But I was super into music, and I was super good at the trumpet, and I got to find some videos of like the marching band stuff or some of the solos or fun things I did. But suffice to say, I chose computers instead of music, and here I am.
Right. So today, the situation is such that, well, I'm basically not playing any music. I like music, kind of. And not like super music, like Rim is like 10 times more music than I am, but yeah, I'm more music than most people I know.
Yeah, you don't sit down in front of the piano every day and try to learn how to play it better.
No, but I like it, and playing it, I guess I appreciate it more now than I did then, and I'm still kind of upset that I didn't keep playing the guitar since 5th grade, because I would be super rocking out right now, which I would totally like, and Guitar Hero doesn't help that at all. It, in fact, hurts that a lot. So I said, you know what? If I would have started playing in 5th grade, right, that would have been what, 5th grade, and now I'm in what, the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I'm in the 19th grade, so it is only like maybe 15 years or so of, maybe 14, 15 years
now, granted,
of playing.
You're discounting the whole, brains change as you get older, harder to learn things.
I am discounting that, but basically the equivalent of playing for those 14 years, well, if I start playing now, right, I'm 25, by the time I'm like 40, I think I could be rocking out. I mean,
It's possible. I'll give you.
At least, I won't be god of rock ever or anything. That's pretty much a foregone conclusion. But I could be playing songs and having fun and doing cool stuff. At least entertaining friends and people on the internet and making music for the show or whatever. So I said, hey, that's not too bad. But then I looked on the internet and I said, you know what? Guitars are expensive. I mean, you could buy like a cheap piece of shit, nylon string, whatever. But if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it for real. I'm not going to do something half-ass or crappy. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I kind of wasn't sure that if I bought a guitar that I would actually practice. I felt like I'm going to go online and I'm going to buy some like $200 guitar and an amp and whatever. And it's going to sit there on a little stand that cost me $30 or I don't know how much stands cost. It's going to sit in my room.
I've got a stand. You can have it.
A guitar stand?
Well, no, I've got a music stand.
I have a guitar stand. Probably a music stand, even more money, right? And I'm going to buy some book that tells me how to play or something, or watch, who knows. And it's going to sit there, and I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to look at it every day, sitting in my room, some awesome guitar, and I'm not going to play it, and I'm just going to feel really bad about spending a lot of money on something I don't use, and it's going to suck. So I said, you know what? I got a better idea.
Yeah.
I went, and I said, well, is there some way that I can sort of prove that if I buy the guitar, I will actually practice it? Because if I can prove to myself that if I bought one, I would actually learn it, then I buy one.
Well, you've been playing the plastic guitar quite a bit.
Yeah, that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe if there was a piece of software like Guitar Hero, but it actually taught you how to play real guitar.
Yeah, you realize something like that is the holy grail of making infinite money.
Well, so I think there's some project to make something like that for the piano.
Yeah, people have been trying that forever, and it's never really been successful or good.
Yeah. But anyway, I need to prove to myself that I would actually practice before I would go and spend the money on the guitar. So I was trying to figure out what to do that. And the solution came to me through multiple means. Basically, I listened to this podcast, The Roadhouse. I actually pay for this podcast. It's like $20 a year something, and I get no ads in it, and I get an extra song every week, which is awesome. And it's blues music. And I like blues music, and I'd probably play blues guitar if I got a guitar. And I was listening to blues music, and I heard a guy playing the harmonica. Not too uncommon in the blues music, the harmonica. And typically a blues instrument, more than anything else. And it sort of dawned on me, hey, harmonicas are cheap, really cheap. It's like you could get one for like $3. I could play the harmonica. I know how to play instruments where you blow into them. And it can't be that hard, right? I mean... So I said, you know what? I'm going to go and do some research on harmonica playing. And on YouTube, I found this video that basically convinced me. And should we link to the video?
I think we should.
There's this cool guy.
Send it to me again because I don't have the link anymore.
There's a cool guy on YouTube, and his YouTube name is Night Train James, which is a cool name. And he used to be a Marine, and he learned to play the harmonica when he was in the Marines back in the day. And he seems like a pretty cool guy. And this little video convinced me because I was looking up like which harmonica to buy and everything and all that stuff. And this video told me what to buy and everything. And it convinced me that playing the harmonica was going to be a good test. So I went out and I bought a harmonica, exactly the one this guy told me to.
Yeah, well, beyond that, Scott basically came to me and said, watch this video. And I said, okay, and I watched it. And then he's like, let's learn how to play the harmonica.
Yep. So we bought harmonicas, and I convinced Rim to get one. I convinced Alex to get one, too. I don't know if he's playing it, and I got it, and I started trying to learn it. I can't actually play it super good yet, but I can play, like, simple songs, like... Camptown Races.
Can you? I haven't heard you.
I can play Camptown Races.
Or will you play something for our listeners?
No.
No?
No.
I'll play something.
Because I also figured out that listening to harmonicas live is painful.
It's not painful if you're far away or it's part of a band. I don't find it that painful. I think you're just not used to it.
It bothers me, at least. At least when you play, the noise it makes is bothersome.
Nah.
I guess it was also bothersome when you played the trumpet, so maybe it's just Rim playing musical instruments of any kind bothers me.
I think what might have to do with it
whether he's playing well or not, it just
I think what has to do with it is how loud it is.
Something like that.
I mean, my trumpet with like the super silencer mute in is still kind of loud in this house.
So basically, here's the thing. I'm playing the harmonica, and I'm putting some amount of my time, as much time as I feel like.
I haven't heard you play the harmonica in a while.
I've been playing it just when you're not there.
When?
Because unlike you, I play instruments when no one's around, so I don't bother anybody.
But when? I get home before you.
when you're not here.
When?
I was
I'm always
home
here.
Over Thanksgiving, I was home for like 2 days alone.
Oh, over the one weekend.
There were other times when I'm home and no one's here.
So the last time you played the harmonicas over the weekend?
Yeah.
I've actually been playing it pretty much every single day since we bought them.
Well, obviously, this is why you are much more the music than me, because you have much more the practice motivation.
Yeah, well, part of it too, and Scott actually didn't believe me, but I did try to learn the harmonica as a kid, and I own a harmonica, maybe two. I don't remember if that was mine or my brother's.
Yeah.
And I was awful at it, like really awful, because I didn't get lessons or anything really. I just tried to learn
You said
from
you
a
got
book.
lessons, now you're lying.
I tried to learn from a book.
Uh-huh. You said you got lessons before.
Well, I got lessons from a book.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I was awful at it, and I gave it up pretty much right away, and I never got past going bitty 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 up and down in the harmonica.
That I was able to do that when I was like 3, and I had a harmonica that somehow made its way into my toy closet.
But it's really easy to play the harmonica.
At least to
because-
play simple songs.
Well, to play almost anything on a diatonic harmonica.
10-hole diet. Yeah.
If you know about music, if you know music theory, and you know what sound you want to make, and you know why you want to make those sounds, it's so easy to play the harmonica.
The thing is, it's only got 10 holes, which is like 20 notes, but then you can bend to get a few more notes. But there are a lot of songs that you sort of can't play on at least a C key harmonica. You need to get harmonicas in other keys to play other songs.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can play a lot.
You can play a lot. You can play enough. So here's the thing. I'm going to keep playing the harmonica, basically as much as I have been. And if I'm still playing it and I'm still harmonicaing like a year from now or and I feel like I've actually learned it and like I could play video game songs on it or whatever, and I'm comfortable just like whipping it out and playing a song or whatever, then I'll buy a guitar. Otherwise, I realize that I'll just I'll consign myself to the fact that while I might like to play a musical instrument and like the idea of it, I will never actually invest the amount of time into it to make it worth it. And I'll give up.
Our real goal now is to get good enough to play a lot of really geeky music.
That is my
cons.
goal. That's pretty much my line.
How cool would that be? You're walking around some anime con, and you see a bunch of guys just rocking out on blues versions of some anime song in the artist alley.
If I reach that point, I'll buy a guitar for sure.
So, gonna practice?
Yeah, I practice.
You're not gonna play something for our listeners? I know they want to hear it.
Well, it's tough.
But they want to hear it. They want to hear you
to play a harmonica and record it, you need like that little ball microphone thing.
No, you don't.
Like,
What do you think that ball microphone thing is, Scott?
it's a special microphone for harmonicas.
Aha.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Scott, our microphone right here is great for recording the harmonica. Remember, the microphones we use are instrument mics. You can mic pretty much any instrument with this.
All right, well, whatever. I'm not playing right now. Wait till I get better some.
All right. But yeah, my entreaty to all of you is that if you're cool at all, you should buy a 10-hole diatonic key of C harmonica. Lee Oscar, I think, is the one that we bought.
Yeah, you can also buy, I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 different companies that make them.
Buy the Lee Oscar, whatever.
There's the Hohner Marine Band is the other one you can get. Hohner, Hohner Marine Band 10-hole.
And I think we should
as long as it's a 10-hole diatonic key of C harmonica. That's what's important.
I think we should all learn the harmonica together, and then whenever there is any crowd of Geeknights listeners, much like if there's ever a crowd of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or possibly 10 naked men, a heap of trouble is sure to come about for all concerned.
I can also play but I can't play the solo part where they're like going. I can't.
We should have some dueling harmonicas, perhaps at the New York Anime Festival.
I don't know. Maybe.
How about Katsukan?
That's a better chance.
Think we'll have something for Katsukan? Remember, we're doing a late show at Katsukan.
Yeah, that'd be a good time.
We should bust out the harmonicas then.
We should have some sort of dueling nerd harmonica.
Let's commit to that now on the air.
No.
Why not?
I'm not committing to
I'll
anything.
commit.
The whole point of this is to determine if I have the committing ability. I'm not going to commit. If I was going to commit now, I would be like buying a Stratocaster online or something.
Not a Telecaster?
I don't know. I have no idea. I just said the name of a guitar I know. I wouldn't even know what guitar to buy. I'd have to research that too.
All right, yeah, we went on long. That's all I got. It's Thursday. I need some sleep, and I haven't made dinner yet.
Yeah, let's go eat.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.